Hi, AP Seminar, Mr. Mahler here, and in this video we're going to be talking about how you find sources. In our last video we talked about how to plan research and to gather a working thesis, to go from a broad topic down to a researchable question to develop a working thesis. And now we're going to look on how to find proper sources for this working thesis. Hope you're excited. I'm excited. Let's get started. So, first thing when you have to do research and now that you have a working thesis, you're going to determine, well, where the heck do I really look for this proper research to develop and gather resources for my thesis? Well, the highest quality sources you can find are scholarly journals. These are peer-reviewed, they have to present findings, they can be criticized, they are published, they are highly, highly credible because they're peer-reviewed. However, there is a downside. There's a lot of lag in time. If you're looking at a very current issue within the last year or two, there may not be a lot of scholarly journals on that issue because it takes a long time for it to be submitted and peer-reviewed and then published. A more current source that you can look for are newspapers. However, even though newspapers cover a lot of current issues, they're not as well researched, they're not peer-reviewed, they're not necessarily fact-checked as deeply as scholarly journals. So if you're looking at something current, yes, these are sources. However, you have to remember that newspapers are a business that are trying to sell copies to make money, so they're going to try and present it in either a dramatized way, this particular issue, or they're going to try to make it very divisive or debatable. So they may not be very objective. So you have to keep that in mind. If you're going to use newspapers, you need to use newspaper sources from multiple different newspapers in different places around the world with different perspectives to really get an overarching view of the conversation on this topic. Lastly, you can use government-based websites. Now, these are really good if you're looking for numbers. If you're doing science or medicine, if you're looking at that kind of data, government websites are very good because they have a lot of published findings and we know they're fairly credible. Now, as you're about to search, the hardest thing that a lot of people find is, how do I type in the correct words to get what I'm looking for? I was working on a paper a couple of months ago and it was over social justice. And one thing I was looking at was social justice and education in terms of immigration. However, when I just typed in immigration into the electronic database I was using, we had about 2,000 articles. So I had to refine my keyword search. I had to be more specific. I said immigration and education, so I got about a couple of hundred. Then I had to go through, filter out all the ones that were more based around social justice and humanities rather than sciences. So, when you have your working thesis, you're going to try and just write down, before you just go, write down possible keywords for researching your working thesis. So for example, if you're going to be looking at internet piracy and maybe the economic effects of internet piracy, torrents, you could do bootleg copies of movies, things like that. You don't want to just type in internet piracy. You want to have a lot of different options that you can type in because depending on what your keyword is, you're going to get different sources. So it can be very broad, like internet cookies, spyware. You can say torrents, you could say bootleg copies. You could use different synonyms. Instead of saying internet piracy, you could say identity theft or data protection. Something that's a little bit larger than just how does people stealing movies affect economies. Well, piracy isn't just related to stealing movies, it could be stealing your social security number. Or you can do terms that refer to this topic. You can talk about different groups, or you can talk about different organizations that are related to internet piracy. For instance, you can type in anonymous. You can type in Kim.com. You can type in the founder of Pirate Bay. Just some different options for you. Now, how do you use these sources? And it's particularly databases, EBSCOhost, FactFinder, things like that. Well, when you're looking at databases, first off, databases are going to contain journals, studies. They're going to create peer-scrutinized, peer-reviewed professional journals. These are great places to find sources. We're going to get a lot of credible information. However, remember, we're going to have a bit of a lag time in how updated these sources are. So the first thing you need to do is select a database. Now, your school will have particular databases that they use. They may not have the full gamut of everything in that database, but common things are like EBSCOhost. However, there are some other online databases you can use. Google Books and Google Scholar are actually pretty good databases. They may not be as extensive as the ones your school paid for, but it's another place that you can look for some of these peer-reviewed journals. So when you're going in, search the database using the keywords that you've written down. Let's see if you can narrow some of these things down. Now you're going to get an overwhelming amount of articles for the most part. There's a couple of easy ways to filter this as you're trying to figure out how to choose an article. Make sure that the articles you're going to look at first are in full text. If they're just going to give you a review of a text or a source, just throw that out. You need full text articles because that's what you have to have. So just throw those out. That'll take out a large percentage of the articles in the database. Another thing you want to do is when you click on these articles, there's actually going to be a summary of the overall journal article at the top. Read that. Instead of trying to filter through tons and tons of pages of articles, read those summaries at the top, and that will give you a great look at if what this article is about is related to your particular topic. It will save you a lot of time. When you found an article that's good, you can check out the summary. All right, this is related to my topic. Don't read it yet. Just print it or email it to yourself. What you're trying to do is just gather a collection of possible sources to use. You're not necessarily reading them and going through them yet. Now we got to talk about web sources. The web can be a place for relevant sources. However, the thing you have to realize is there's no quality control. Nothing is peer reviewed. There's no real system of organization. There's no overarching body that can critically review things that are put on the web and a .com, especially if it's social media. However, if you want to use regular web browsers to search for sources, what you want to do is you want to go to the advanced search options instead of just the standard default search options. What you can do is you can limit the type of websites that you're looking for, so you can choose .govs, .orgs, .edus, so it can filter out a lot of the non-peer-reviewed, unreliable sources. Another thing that you can do, another thing I rather should say we should address, is social media and Wikipedia. Now, here's what I would say with that. I had plenty of college professors who actually added to Wikipedia and who actually liked Wikipedia, but you would never use it as a source. What I would tell you in terms of Twitter links or social media or Wikipedia, it's a great place to jump off from, kind of figure out what the conversation is, get a little bit of a hint on different people's perspectives, even though they're really not providing evidence, they're just making claims without any reasons or evidence at all. But in Wikipedia, go to the very, very bottom of the pages, you'll find all the sources that are linked for that page. Use those links and sources to find more information about that topic that will be credible. If you're looking at social media and Twitter and there's a particular conversation going on, try to see if they're linking any news articles or if they're referencing any experts on this particular issue, and that'll give you a place to go. So it's not that social media and Wikipedia aren't valuable to look at, because they do have a place. However, they're not things you want to cite, but it's a great place to start to look at the conversation. Now, let's talk about government sources. These are your .govs. A lot of these, as I said, a lot of the best uses for government websites are statistics, hard data, numbers. So here are a couple of ones you want to look at, especially in the US. Census Bureau information, this is population information in the United States. The Center for Disease Control, CAA World Factbook. The Library of Congress is awesome. If you've never been to the Library of Congress, please go. They actually have multiple copies of almost every government document, magazine, newspaper, movie, if it was printed, they've got 2 copies of it all over the world. It's really cool. Check out NASA, USA.gov, National Institute of Health. This will give you a lot of data, especially if you're in the STEM topics. If you're looking for charts, maps, and graphs, you can go to Statistical Abstract of the US or National Geographic Map Machine. This could just be different ways that you can print out maps for a particular area if you're looking at, let's say, demographics or immigration or population shifting or the effect of certain natural disasters on a population. So that's something that you can use. Now, last thing we want to talk about I know we're in a technological age and everyone loves to hold up some sort of, we're all addicted to screens. Have you ever noticed that? We're always staring at screens. It's TV, it's computer, it's my phone, it's a tablet. Screen, feed me. Okay, read a book. Just, they have these things called libraries. And they have this thing called Amazon.com. Get some books. Because if they were printed, again, some of them can be very not true, but there's, people, these famous authors on some of these subjects publish books because they want to make money. Read a book. Feel the pages between your fingers. Now, there are a couple of different print sources that we could talk about. Scholarly journals. And again, these are peer-reviewed. They're written by experts. Now, a really cool thing about these scholarly journals is they're also going to have references that they're citing in their article as well. So as you're reading these journal entries, these professional journals, see who they are citing, because that can take you deeper into research as well. If you're looking at popular journals, things like The Economist, things like Foreign Affairs, these are some, they're like a highbrow magazine almost. Now, it's good for getting general information. However, they're not going to be very specific. They're not going to reference as much in those articles. And the other thing you have to think about is, instead of being written by experts in these scholarly journals, these are written by journalists. Yeah, they may be more in-depth than your regular magazine, but they're still not experts. They still don't have PhDs. However, again, because scholarly journals take some time to come out on current issues, popular journals are a good place for researching current opinion, looking at things that are happening right now, and it's a good starting off point. Well, that ends our view on how to find proper sources, giving you a lot of different options. Hopefully you'll take some of these strategies into your research for your argument assignments. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something you didn't know before.